For decades, the Korean peninsula has been a stark symbol of division. On one side, a thriving democracy and economic powerhouse, South Korea. On the other, a reclusive, nuclear-armed state, shrouded in mystery, North Korea. How did two nations born from the same history and culture diverge so dramatically? This is the story of what went wrong with North Korea. To understand North Korea's present, we must look to its past. After Japanese colonial rule ended in 1945, Korea was divided by the victorious Allied powers. The Soviet Union occupied the north, fostering a communist regime under Kim Il-sung, a former anti-Japanese guerrilla fighter. The South, meanwhile, was backed by the United States, eventually forming a democratic government. The Korean War, from 1950 to 1953, solidified this division, leaving millions dead and the peninsula ravaged. Though an armistice was signed, no formal peace treaty ever was, leaving the two Koreas technically still at war. In the aftermath, North Korea under Kim Il-sung embraced a philosophy known as Juche, or self-reliance. Initially, this meant prioritizing heavy industry and mobilizing national resources. It was a response to external pressures and a desire to forge its own path, distinct from both Soviet and Chinese influence. While it initially saw some industrialization, this self-reliance soon morphed into an extreme form of isolation, ultimately cutting North Korea off from the global economy and critical international aid. The promise of self-reliance, however, proved to be a facade. North Korea's centrally planned economy, heavily focused on military spending, began to falter. The collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s was a devastating blow. As North Korea lost its primary economic benefactor and source of cheap fuel and aid, this economic decline, coupled with a series of severe natural disasters, devastating floods in 1995 and subsequent droughts, triggered a catastrophic famine, known within North Korea as the Arduous March. This period from 1995 to 2000 is estimated to have killed hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people. The government's response was dire. Despite international pleas for aid, much of the relief that did arrive was reportedly diverted to the military or elite, leaving the general population to starve. The state's traditional isolation and its focus on military might over civilian welfare worsened the crisis, creating a chronic food insecurity issue that persists to this day. As its economy crumbled, North Korea doubled down on its military, particularly its nuclear program. Beginning in the 1950s with Soviet assistance, North Korea's nuclear ambitions grew, driven by a deep-seated paranoia about external threats, especially from the United States and South Korea. Despite numerous international efforts at denuclearization, including the 1994 Agreed Framework, North Korea consistently pursued its weapons program in secret. Its first nuclear test in 2006 marked a turning point, leading to widespread international condemnation and a series of increasingly stringent UN Security Council sanctions. These sanctions aimed at choking off funds for its weapons programs, further isolated North Korea, limiting its access to global trade and finance, all meant to curb its nuclear ambitions. They have also undeniably exacerbated the hardships faced by ordinary North Koreans. The regime, however, has proven adept at sanctions evasion, resorting to illicit activities like cryptocurrency theft and arms sales to fund its WMD programs, further cementing its pariah status. Behind the headlines of nuclear tests and missile launches lies a deeply disturbing reality, a pervasive human rights crisis. The North Korean government maintains absolute control over its citizens' lives, denying fundamental freedoms. Freedom of speech, assembly, and information are virtually non-existent. Any criticism of the leadership or the state can lead to severe punishment, including imprisonment in brutal political prison camps, known as Kwanaleso. These camps are notorious for forced labor, torture, and a high mortality rate. The state assigns jobs, restricts movement, and tightly controls all media, preventing access to outside information. Reports from defectors paint a grim picture of a society living in fear, where even minor transgressions can have devastating consequences for individuals and their families. This systemic oppression is a fundamental part of what has gone wrong. As the state prioritizes its own survival and military strength over the well-being and basic rights of its people, unlike many communist states, North Korea has seen a dynastic succession of power, passing from Kim Il-sung to his son Kim Jong-il, and then to his grandson Kim Jong-un. This cult of personality around the Kim family is meticulously cultivated, portraying them as godlike figures essential for the nation's survival. Each leader has reinforced the system, with Kim Jong-il emphasizing military-first policies, and Kim Jong-un continuing to consolidate power through purges and by accelerating the nuclear and missile programs. While there have been some minor economic reforms under Kim Jong-un, they have largely been insufficient to address the deep-seated structural issues and have often been overshadowed by the pursuit of weapons. This unwavering focus on regime survival, fueled by an exaggerated perception of external threats and maintained through severe repression, has consistently come at the expense of its people's welfare and integration into the global community. It's a complex tapestry woven from a legacy of division, a flawed ideology of self-reliance, decades of economic mismanagement leading to widespread famine, the pursuit of nuclear weapons at all costs, and a brutal human rights record enforced by a dynastic dictatorship. The international community has tried various approaches: aid, sanctions, dialogue, pressure, with limited success. The challenge remains immense: how to denuclearize a regime that sees nuclear weapons as its ultimate guarantee of survival, while simultaneously addressing the dire humanitarian situation and the egregious human rights abuses. The future of North Korea is uncertain. Will it ever truly open up? Will its people ever experience the freedoms and prosperity enjoyed by their southern neighbors? The answers lie within the shadows of the Hermit Kingdom, a nation shaped by a series of choices that have led it down a path of isolation, hardship, and a dangerous nuclear standoff. The story of what went wrong in North Korea is a cautionary tale, and its conclusion is yet to be written. What are your thoughts on North Korea's challenges? Comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe.